Hi, this is the concluding video for the HMO Patient's Journey tutorial. In this video, I will show you how you can request pre-authorization or claims for the patient whom we have seen in the previous video. To do that, I'll have to log in as an HMO officer called Harry P. Harry P would have to assess this patient from the check-in or from appointment. So we are trying to make a pre-authorization request for John Doe. Click on Attend to Client, and then I will click on Pre-authorization. Now that we're in the pre-authorization page, I'll click on Add New to initiate a new pre-authorization request. Note that these input fields are required fields, hence they are highlighted in red. What's the priority for this request? I'm going to say it's an emergency. So let's say the patient is now an inpatient. Remember that in the previous video, we sent this patient to ward, so we admitted this patient. I did that because I wanted to show you the different ways you can make claims. So for you to set the patient type, I beg your pardon, if the patient was never admitted to your hospital, the patient remains an outpatient. You click on outpatient and you can see history of appointments that you're claiming for. So which of the days are you making pre-authorization request for? We're making the pre-authorization request for today. So I'll click on the first one here. That way, we are linking this particular request to a certain appointment day and time. That is why I said in previous videos that it is important to schedule an appointment and check in the patient. Otherwise, you might not be able to make a claim. Another way we can do this is set the patient to inpatient. So remember, our patient was sent on admission, right? There's no order to process here because the patient was never processed. If the patient were processed, we will find the record for that admission. The patient is now an inpatient, and then you would select, the admission you're looking for, which has to be tied to the day and time that request was processed. In our previous video, we never processed that admission. So I'll stick to our patient being an outpatient. I can add complaints. For adding complaints, we want to say, okay, let's say the patient complained of headaches. What was the duration? So let's say the patient complained that for about 1 month now, they've been having headaches. You can add more than one complaint. Click clinical findings. This is optional. You can choose to copy and paste the clinical notes here. You can enter, this is also very important, or again, you can choose to link to the clinical notes that was created by the doctor. In case there's none, you can add a diagnosis type. So let's say there was a principal diagnosis for malaria, and or maybe we're just doing this now. Sorry, anti-malarial. And I'll save. So I can add more than one. You can enter what investigations were done, or let's say what investigation you know was contained in this clinical finding. I could leave this, it's optional. Investigation, drugs. Let me just go to the business of the day. um you're actually requesting pre-authorization to continue a certain service for the patient. So I'll click on new service and I want to check that this patient has, so let's say we want to verify that this patient requires, let's say this patient requires pre-authorization, to become an inpatient, to be admitted. So I would say inpatient service was not found, meaning, okay, this patient is not, cannot be admitted. This is just an example. So let's see, this patient requires pre-authorization for malaria. So I'll click on this. The unit price for malaria is 2,500. The quantity is just one malaria test we're doing, and the comments, you can just enter a comment if there's any. I'll click on add service. You can make requests for more than one service, okay? So let's say we are just requesting pre-authorization for malaria test, and you can enter a final comment or choose not to, whatever applies, and click on create pre-authorization. What we have just done is successfully create a pre-authorization request and send it out to the hospital, the HMO, for them to process. Now, this is the pre-authorization request that we made, and I'll just go over to the HMO end, again, the test HMO end, to approve or decline this pre-authorization request. Be right back. So now that's the pre-authorization request we sent out has been processed and the status has changed. So let me refresh this page to get the updates. Um, Hi. So now we can see that our pre-authorization request has been approved. Status says approved. So let me click. Approval is complete. So we can proceed to carry out the service for the patient. Okay. So this is how pre-authorization is done in, you know, for an HMO patient. Another thing I'd like to mention is that if you have more than one service here and the HMO claims at pre-authorizations officer reviewed each and every one of these services, if you click on the service here, you will find a note, let's say comment, or they might choose to pay for an agreeable quantity and set the agreeable price, and then you will see that okay, that particular service was approved. If there was another service here that was declined, if you click on that service, you will see that it was declined. So you can tell that malaria test was approved and PCV was not approved. Now let's move on to making claims for a patient. So we want to make a claim for the same patient, John Doe. I'll click on claims. But before I do, let me quickly show you what happens here. You can view details of this patient's policy like we did the time we were going to set up an appointment. You can also view the patient's benefit list, that is services that this patient has access to. So this patient has access to malaria tests and all, you know, this patient also has access to registration costs. What we cannot claim for here is PCV. So let's say, for instance, PCV, uh, let's say, for instance, we kind of sent out a prioritization request to see if we can treat this patient for PCV, and it turned out that we could not. So we'll just make a claim for registration and malaria test. So I'll click on claims. Again, this is just demo services. So this is the claims form. You want to choose the patient type. Again, our patient is an outpatient. You can see John Doe. You choose the date that we're making this claim for. If there's a new complaint, you can enter, but I'll just ignore all of these and go straight up to the services data. Notice how we have malaria already pre-filled. This is telling you that there was a request for pre-authorization to carry out malaria test and it came approved. So we will be making a claim for this. There's no need to add malaria to the list of services. Let me see what else we can add just to show you how you can add a service again. So let's say if we have registration, so we have registration. So I click on registration. And let's say, for instance, we're claiming for 3 registrations. We're saying, okay, Actually, this patient came, with their two dependents, and so we charged them each for registration. I'll click on, let me say, comment. I can choose to ignore. Okay, and then I would go ahead to click on create claim. Now I have successfully sent out a request for claims for the patient John Doe, the patient whom we have been seeing from the very beginning, of this tutorial. And we're making claim for 3 persons registration and malaria test, which has pre-authorization that has been approved. Let me go over to the HMO side to approve this. I'll be right back. So we can see that this particular claim we just sent out is currently being vetted. You can tell what stage your claims processing is in. We can see that, okay, currently the claim is being vetted and hopefully shortly it will be approved. Let me go on to approve this. So you can tell whatever stage this claims processing is by looking at the status, or you just simply clicking and you can see the claim status here. And you can tell, you can also see the history of approvals or documentation modifications done to this document. You can see that the HMO set this to vetted. If we go look at the services here, we can see that we were claiming for 3 quantities of registration. Just an example, by the way. If I click on this, I can see that it was approved, but just for one head. So the HMO is saying that we only approved registration for one person because this is a family and only one registration would apply to the entire family. Hence, we are saying that, okay, you are requesting that you want to be paid for 3 persons in that policy, and the HMO is saying, no, we are paying you for just one, and the amount is 500 naira. If you have a complaint, you might want to add that as a comment here, or initiate a chat with the HMO staff. Let me say, hi, please, I would like to um, request a review, and the HMO staff would respond to you. So there's a communication, by the way. You sent a hi, you want to request a review, and there's someone waiting to discuss this review with you. So let me go ahead to approve this claim. So what we're saying here is that this payment or this claim has been queued for payment, meaning that it has been approved and they have queued it or batched it up for payment for the billing period for which we are currently in. So this is where you can follow up with the claim status until it changes to paid, and then we know that we are done with making claims. So our claims, which was queued for payment, has been paid, and you can confirm payment through your bank account or whatever means you can confirm payment by. So this is how you make a claim for patients that you have seen in your hospital. If there's any questions, you can always reach out to us, to any of our staff who conducts the training, or you can make a complaint using the complaint module to tell us what complaints that you might have. Thank you very much.